Did you die?
Huh?
Did you die?
Yeah, thank you. No.
So
Okay. Folks, that's still 100% survival rate. Maya, was that tough?
With your fingers.
Yeah,
Is
my
that bad?
fingers are on.
I was kind of nervous, but it wasn't that bad.
Thank you. Folks, still got 100% survival rate. I don't think that's something that requires applause. That is true. So folks, keep in mind, okay? This is worth as many points as a test. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Maya, that was a really excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Yep. Really good job. What I'm looking for. Okay?
Alright, so what is the how to avoid?
Very good question. So the how to avoid, and again, I always wait until Mr. Grazzi gives the official trademark Mr. Grazzi to how to avoid, because I want us to all kind of keep it consistent. So folks, before we get to specifically what we should write down, let's look at this scenario. A student ends up in the hospital for 3 weeks.
Oh,
Right? Pretty serious illness. And because of that, they are unable to finish their logical fallacy presentation. And they come back after 3 weeks, and they're like, Mr. Grazza, I'm so sorry. I was in the hospital. I just couldn't get the presentation done. Could I get an extension on it? What do we think Mr. Grazza's response is going to be?
yes.
No! You had 3 weeks! What did you do this entire time? Obviously not, folks. Okay? Obviously, sometimes life happens. Things happen, and they relevantly, keyword there, relevantly impact whether or not you can do something. Obviously, if you were in the hospital, or if something bad happened, if there was some kind of a family emergency, Mr. Gratz is not going to be like, tough luck. No extensions. No.
Mr. Grassa,
Yes, Maya.
do you have to write like the name, definition, example, and how to avoid for your own?
You will need a flashcard for it, yes, but that should be pretty simple because you have it all in the presentation.
Okay.
Yes.
What's the how to avoid?
We're getting there. Okay. Now, if a student were to say, like Mr. Gratza, my dog died and I just really couldn't focus on doing my homework, I might ask a follow-up question, which would be, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. When did your dog die? 4 years ago. I may not give you that extension. Obviously, I love my pets very much. I have 2 cats. They are wonderful. I will be very, very sad when they die. Okay? I know that we can have very close, almost familial relationships with our pets. But 4 years is enough time to perhaps come to terms with it, and you still got to do your homework. Okay, so the how to avoid for an appeal to pity. So here's the how to avoid for an appeal to pity. Show how the situation relevantly impacts your circumstances. So show how the situation relevantly impacts your circumstances. Well, what category is the fallacy of pity? It's broad category, fallacies of relevance, and then subcategory, appeals to emotion. All the fallacies we're learning today, and then I think one more.
Appeal to pity, pity. What is that after?
Appeal to emotions.
What's under appeal to emotions?
Yep.
And then appeal to fear is under appeal to
appeal to emotion again. All the fallacies we're learning today are appeals to emotion fallacies. Now, folks, here's another example, okay? When Mr. Grazza applied to teach here at Founders Academy, I was interviewed by Dean Hayes and actually Miss Moe. One of the questions they asked was, what makes you qualified to teach these classes? Now, what if Mr. Grazza's response would have been the following? Well, that's a really good question. Right now, my wife is actually in law school, so we're a single income family. And so, money is a little tight. And I have 2 kids who I love them so much. They're so great. And one of them is very sick right now. The hospital bills just keep getting more and more, and I don't know how we're going to make ends meet. So, folks, did Mr. Grazza answer the question of what makes you qualified to teach these classes?
No.
No, I did not. By the way, folks, it's not a true story. I have students ask, are your kids okay? I have 2 cats. They're fine. One of them is missing some teeth because he's a moron. It's a different story. Okay? Well, folks, that is a classic example of an appeal to pity. Yes, Johan.
You're really good at acting. You're really good.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Why are you doing vodka? Why can't you do drama?
Because Miss Moak does a better job at it than I do.
Logical drama.
So, folks, that is appeal to pity. Where's Maya's? No. Good job, Maya. Good job. Okay. So, folks, we're going to move on to our next logical fallacy. Still an appeal to emotion. I'm going to present on this one. And then after that, it's going to be Nikki, and then finally Janessa. Okay? So I'm going to present on one, and then Jackson. Okay, we're going to talk after class, okay?
Am I supposed to still be in the same game?
Yes, because you're going to have some more student presentations. So, our next fallacy, the one that Mr. Grazza is going to present on, is called snob appeal. Snob.
Wait, is this also in emotion?
That is correct. All fallacies that we're learning today, everything today, is going to be subcategory appeals to emotion. Snob appeal. Folks, what does the word snob mean? Right, very good. Johan?
It's like a snob is like mostly like a arrogant person.
Yes, very good. That's a good word. Yes, Janessa.
Messy.
Messy. That's a slob. That's with an L instead of the N. That's a slob. Yes, snob that's one letter difference. One letter difference. I was worried someone was going to be like, Mr. Grazza. No. Well, I'm occasionally a snob.
Oh.
But a snob is someone who looks down on other people.
Hey, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Maya, do you have to do the sub and broad categories for your flashcards? You do not. They are recommended. They are not required. Only thing that's required on your flashcards is name, definition, one example, and how to avoid it. Or the hata. So, a snob is someone who looks down on people. Okay, so here's what I want you to write down as a definition for a snob appeal. It's an argument that makes someone feel special or elite. It's an argument that makes someone feel special or elite.
How do you spell elite?
Great question. I'm going to put it in the chat. I'm also going to speak it out loud so people in person can see it. Well, you're all on the chat too. Yes, you may. Elite. E-L-I-T-E. Elite. So it's an argument that makes someone feel special or elite. Folks, this is a logical fallacy that often appears in commercials, actually. All right, so here's an example that you can write down in your notes. Buy this fancy car so people will know that you're successful. Buy this fancy car so people will know that you are successful. Yes?
Could one be like, have this makeup so you make you feel look beautiful?
Exactly. Very good. Very good. Perfume commercials use this very much. And it's fascinating because, again, perfume, what are they trying to sell you?
Just a bottle of liquid that sprays so you can smell better.
Right? It's trying to sell you a certain fragrance, a certain smell. And again, like this, I'm not saying that perfume is bad, right? I'm not saying that cologne is bad. What? Well, one second. So, folks, can you smell the perfume out of your TV?
Yeah.
Smell-o-vision never took off. They tried it, it didn't work. Yes. Successful, S-U-C-C-E-S-S-F-U-L. Successful. No problem. Right? So they're trying to advertise for something that you can't actually experience through the TV. So oftentimes, and I'm thinking like Chanel No. 5 or some of the like more expensive fragrances, more expensive perfumes, right? They will often have a celebrity who is attending some grand ball or some kind of fancy dinner party or something, and it's all very flowy. It's trying to associate it with, if you smell like this, you too will live a glamorous. That's a snob appeal. Yes.
So they're pretty much saying, like, if you live in a small shack, not only one place, and you get to see your old friend, like, have a mansion with a Lamborghini and then a bonfire fountain for yourself, like, what land?
Exactly. That's where it's a logical fallacy, right? Yes.
But like, no one ever thinks that, so why do they continue to do it?
Because, so again, from like an advertising perspective, you start to associate the product with a certain lifestyle, and it actually does work. People don't necessarily think like, oh, it's going to get me a mansion, but it's going to be more like, well, if I wear this fragrance, people will assume that I have a mansion.
Or you could wear it at a mansion if you're like going to a dinner party.
Maya, what do you put for an example? Buy this fancy car so people will think that you're successful. Now, folks. Now, this is often applied to things that cost a lot of money, but it's more nuanced than that. There's a little bit more to it than that. It is any argument that tries to make you feel special or elite. Here's some more examples. Well, we're really just salt of the earth kind of people. We're down to earth. We're not fancy schmancy. We're real Americans. That's a snob appeal. It's trying to make people feel special and unique. Sophia, everything okay? Okay. Now let's imagine for a moment, right? Miss Agranta starts an exclusive after-school club. And only students who have received an elephant award are allowed to come to the club. And Mr. Gross gets some like ice cream and stuff like that. And I say, you should work hard in logic so you can join this exclusive club.
Isn't it pretty much like school test quality so you can get into a high? Oh yeah, like to get into Harvard.
Probably wouldn't be that prestigious, folks. I'm flattered,
No, it's
but
to guilt trip you into like, let's say like in like third grade and like she's like all of you have to test, so if you like super hard, that's what you're doing.
yeah.
But it's rightfully earned because
Riley, you
all
can't
of
eat ice
your
cream.
work-
I'm with you there. I'm lactose intolerant. I can't eat dairy.
I feel bad.
I am. I take lactate because I don't care.
Oh.
But folks, that's a snob appeal. Okay? So it doesn't necessarily have to be something expensive. Yes, we do need to make a little bit of progress. But if you write the question down, you can ask me after class. Okay? But those are all examples of potential snob appeals. Now, folks, the way to avoid a snob appeal is not necessarily something that will always work. Right? Sometimes being snobby you can't justify it. But we're going to talk about, for example, the car example Mr. Grazza brought up. Now, Mr. Grazza used to sell cars back in the day. Yep, I sold Toyotas. Not for a super long time. Sold for about 4 or 5 months. I did not enjoy it. Right? I don't remember. It wasn't like a huge number, but I did sell some. The dealership that I sold cars at, this was back in Missouri, was owned by a person who owned several car dealerships. Owned a Toyota dealership, an Audi dealership, a BMW dealership, and a Lexus dealership. Now, when I was first starting there, they had me drive a lot of the cars around, park stuff, do a lot of that stuff while I was still learning about the cars. And one time, the owner wanted to kind of put some BMWs on display at a golf course. Okay. And so I was tasked with driving these souped up, fully accessorized BMWs to this golf course. Now, folks, I own a Toyota. I love my Toyota Camry. It's a fantastic vehicle. I'm a big fan. The BMW was significantly faster, more responsive, and all around better than my Toyota Camry. Okay, I'm not like a really big car, like I sold cars, so I kind of keep up with it, but I'm not like huge, like into like, oh man, like cars and car shows and all that. That's really not me. Well, folks, that BMW was a joy to drive. It was fun. Okay? That is true. I am also expressing my opinion.
Did you like scratch it and then
No, I didn't crash it. I almost drove a truck off a ramp one time. That's a different story. That was like my second day there. They tasked me with driving up a massive Toyota Tundra. It's like their biggest truck on like a, I kid you not, ramp that size for each wheel. Like, okay, drive it up then. I'm like, you sure?